You have cases that are going back to the 80s. You're here in 2010. You have cases going back to the 90s. So imagine the amount of evidence you have to go through on a regular basis.
And those DBQs, once veterans realized or understood, hey, how they needed to be completed, especially if they had a medical, because some VA medical providers, primary care providers back then were actually completing them and were doing a good job. And now you really, you really don't see that.
That gets very, very difficult, right? You have to go down a manual and make sure you're doing this correctly, because if you don't use it, you're gonna lose it right there on the spot.
Right there on the spot. There was no need for a CMP exam because I used the regulation 38 CFR 3.326 subpart B. No further examination is necessary because I could rate based off that DBQ.
Veterans, it is up to you in order to identify those things to help your decision be a positive experience.
Hello, everyone, and welcome back. My name is Dwayne. I got a video for the Kimball, United States Army veteran and retired VA rating specialist. I am joined today by
Mr. Kenneth Davis, veteran advocate, U.S. Navy veteran as well, and also former Raider.
Mr. Davis. We got a hot topic today, but before we jump into this hot topic, can you let everybody know where they can find you on YouTube?
Yes, you can find us on Prepare to Compete at our channel here, where we talk about everything in regards to VA benefits, entrepreneurship, and also real estate. We want to make sure that our veterans are well informed of all aspects of policy and also their veteran benefits in life.
Right. That's awesome. So today we're going to be talking about VA claim processing time. Ms. Davis, I get a lot of questions. Dwayne, I did this, I did that. How long does it take? What is the normal wait times? I just had my CMP exam. How long does it normally take? All these questions. You actually rate it. I actually rate it. So I ask you, does the VA have a standard time that they will complete a VA claim?
Well, I'll first off start off by saying no, they don't. But I would state on average, you might as well go ahead and at least put yourself down for at least 4 to 6 months for a completed process. But on average, that's the average, but typically no, it does not have a strict timeline. So if you say someone saying they're getting their claim rated in a week's time frame or 1 day, we can already kind of cut through the mess and see that that's not true.
Right. I actually worked when I worked out of St. Petersburg regional office. I volunteered for FDC pilot program where veterans could actually bring their prescribed claim form, and we could look at the evidence and we could schedule a CMP exam on the spot, and we would send them over to the CMP office. And if they had a slot open for that day, they had their CMP exam that day.
Wow.
And if a veteran I remember, never forget it, Vietnam vet, was filing a claim for ischemic heart disease. And this was right after NEMR in 2010. He comes in with his 526CZ, his DD-214, and his actionable insufficient DBQ.
Wow. Right there on the spot.
Right there on the spot. There was no need for a CMP exam because I used the regulation 38 CFR 3.326 subpart B. No further examination is necessary because I could rate based off that DBQ. So, when they came out, they gave us the training. So I was like, all right, gathered the paperwork. I looked at it and he was thinking 30%. So I said, you getting treatment at the VA? He says, yes. So I go into Capri. Now I'm looking for Mets because the DBQ showed 30, but he was getting treatment through the VA and had Mets level that showed I could grant the 60%.
Wow.
The next hire. So I went back to the regional office because the Bay Pines VA Medical Center was on the same campus. The regional office, it was all on, uh, acres of land there. Had a VSR to assess the EP, and I rated that case before I went home for the day.
Wow. No, that's amazing.
And then they closed the program. I'm like, it's crazy.
Hey, we can't grant too fast now.
I know, right? But that's, I always wonder why they didn't pilot that to other locations. But that's the fastest that I've ever rated a case. And those DBQs, once veterans realized or understood, hey, how they needed to be completed, especially if they had a medical, because some VA medical providers, primary care providers back then were actually completing them and were doing a good job. And now you really, you really don't see that. But I don't know if you could answer this question. What is the fastest you probably rated a case in,
Well, just to answer that, it wasn't a day. I didn't have the pleasure to be able to get through the pilot program, but when I actually rated it was about a week's time frame. Because we're transitioning over to national work queue, right? Moving, obviously those C files going from paper to electronic, and then actually have an opportunity to have when you just need one of those quick one-hitter quitters. Had hearing loss tinnitus come through. And I was like, oh man, this is my lucky day. I'm down on points. So with that production, man, I was able to get that pushed in a week's time frame. So I actually rated the case right then and there. It only took less than an hour, but they had a week's time frame from submission all the way to completion, and it was great. I was really happy to see the veteran to be able to get that. And I think actually that's a lot of, I think there's a lot of opportunity there too, but I think it's also a little dangerous. And I guess we can talk more about it, but being able to submit those short claims, right? Is that faster? Is it better? Or, what strategy you employ? I guess a lot of veterans want to know.
Right. And, another thing we talk about, and many veterans may not know this, rating bundles and non-rating bundles. So, if you got a vet that's claiming, hearing loss, tinnitus, and then you have another vet that's adding a dependent, sending in a dependent form, that claim is going to sit there because
Yeah.
I don't know what's the strategy now within the VA, but back when I was there, they would tell you that's not a priority. We got other stuff that we working on. And you would see those trickle in, a little bit at a time. And the VSRs obviously, work those. But even I remember one time they were like DIC claims weren't a priority. And I was like,
Yeah.
man, it's crazy. So the regional offices that you worked at, did you see that they normally, because they would let us know like, hey, this month for the next 2 months, these claims are priorities.
Oh yeah, they won't even let you know. They'll just push them in your queue, and that was the biggest thing because you go from rating to non-rating. But imagine being a rate that only dealt with just real life hearing loss, tinnitus, musculoskeletal issues, again, Niemer case, all of that good stuff. But then you push the initiative to for DIC, for dependent claims, for just any other non-rating case files, right? Apportionments. That gets very, very difficult, right? Because you have to go down a manual and make sure you're doing this correctly. Because if you don't use it, you're gonna lose it. So just because you learn does not mean every rater is not the same. Okay, it requires the knowledge, timelines, and all this other good stuff. It's not. It's just different. So whatever initiative that office had at the time, that's what we did.
Right. Oh, yeah. And, so I think a lot of veterans, they get confused when it comes to FDC claims, fully developed claims. I remember when they came on board, fully developed claims, and they were a priority. And a few years back, the VA removed them from being a priority. But what do I'm pretty sure you talk to a lot of veterans. I'm not understanding veterans. They'll ask me, Dwayne, I got denied, but I filed a fully developed claim. I did this, but it was fully developed. And I'm like, what are you talking about? Fully developed only means, hey, VA, I have nothing else to submit. Go ahead and rate my case. Do you see that the same misconception as it pertains to FDC claims, fully developed claims, when you're speaking with veterans?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. And just to clear the air, when we talk about FDC fully developed claims, just like Mr. Kimball said, when it is fully developed, that means you have no more evidence to submit. Once you submit a piece of evidence, late flowing evidence, you know what transacts there? You get kicked out of the FDC program. Okay? So your claim is no longer in a FDC status, and it's still going to go ahead and process the regular timeframes as it would in any other case file. So just because you are FDC does not mean you are expedited to the front of the line. And I'll go ahead and ask, even when we talk about files that needs to be expedited, even age appropriate, right? When we talk about a financial hardship, those are expedited files that's supposed to be pushed up. However, I've seen some of those files honestly get kicked down the line because some of them are difficult.
Oh yeah, most definitely. And that leads me to the next piece of this is evidence. Does the amount of evidence you submit to the VA have an impact on that timeline, or 4 months, 5 months? In my opinion, yes. And I'll give you an example. I know I might catch a lot of flack from veterans on this, but they don't understand. A lot of veterans don't understand VA employees are on production quotas. When I first started, it was monthly. Then they went to biweekly, every pay period. So Friday at the end of the pay period, I'm looking at where I'm at, which I was doing every day. When I log in, I'm like, okay, where am I at? Where am I at? I got to have 79 production points. All right, I'm at 54, and I'm looking at these cases. Your case end up in my queue on a Friday at 8 a.m., and you have 1,000, 2,000 pages of evidence. It's getting pushed to the next week. And go ahead and submit 4,000 if you want to. I'm finding something where I have to defer it because I'm not trying to get an error, because you're sitting there looking at that paperwork. You might, 9 times out of 10, you might miss something. You dive into it, take action on it, QRT, 4 or 5 months down the road, you get an error. No, I'm not doing it. And like I said, I know I may catch some flack, but veterans sending in all that information. It's like my book, 173 pages, 8 by 5, 173 pages, back and front. Read the manuscript several times. When I got the book, I'm like, man, I was on a trip. I'm reading it. Took me about 4 hours. 4 hours. 5 by 8, 170 plus pages. We're talking about 1,000, 2,000, 8.5 by 11 front and back. How long do you think this is going to take to go through and read all that evidence? And you'll see deferral. We laugh, but people, I'm like, short, direct.
Yeah.
I don't know if you encountered that and what you did, but I know what I did when I.
Man. And I'm sure, again, having that experience, you have a specific trained eye, right? That most do not, right? Identifying certain things that most will overlook, but attention to detail, you have to have it in these in this field, right? 4,000 pages, no matter if you're utilizing any tools that you're going to utilize, there is something that is going to be missed. I'm 110%. You will miss something. Veterans, it is up to you in order to identify those things, to help your decision be a positive experience. Okay? So identifying anything outside of that and bringing it to the front of those 4,000 pages would help out a lot. And it's also going to help out with timeliness. It's also going to help out with decision making. Okay. However, that experience going through those amount of pages on a regular basis, because mind you, I worked at the appeals management office, right? So this here is in DC. It's you have cases that are going back to the 80s, and you're here in 2010. You have cases going back to the 90s, and so imagine the amount of evidence you have to go through on a regular basis. So when I tell you, make it easy for the judge and also the rater at hand and the regional office to be able to support you. The moment you do not, again, there is strict guidelines that bias is not supposed to be invoked into your case file. However, it happens. Because your rater is on production, they need to keep their job and feed their family, and guess what? They're veterans as well. So stress may invoke another emotion as well. So let's take that in consideration.
Most definitely. You know, we talked about, it sounds like when we talked about today, the topic just so negative, right?
Yeah.
So before we wrap up, I'm going to give, if I was going back through this claims process today, what would I do to help move that claim through the process a little bit faster? I would 800-827-1000, intent to file for compensation. I'm going to identify all the diagnoses I'm claiming. Where do they fall under the different ways of service connection? Then I am going to go out and identify maybe a mental health specialist or a medical provider that will complete a DBQ and Nexus, because I had 4 VA CMP exams, and I'm like, I'm never going back to those, because 2 of those examiners, they flat out lied. Took me like 4 years to get those lies overturned. So that's me, but I always tell veterans, it's up to you how you want to proceed. Because I know there's going to be one person out there, oh, Dwayne, you said that the veteran is capable to identify what makes a DBQ actionable sufficient. No, I didn't say that. What I would do, and I would build that evidence, get 3, 4, 5, 6 visits or whatever, get that evidence, DBQ, Nexus statement, make sure I review it, or if I didn't have that training, somebody that had that training, hey, can you look at it? Maybe a VSO, a seasoned VSO claim, whoever. Dot all my I's, cross all my T's, and then submit my claim. So that intent to file, you got 365 days. Because what you're doing when you have those multiple visits, now you got the continuity of treatment. So if I have to go to an appeal, I'm like, wait a minute, y'all wanted me to go see somebody that never treated me, that's never seen me before, and that will never see me again. I went and saw somebody, maybe had 4 visits, maybe over 6 months or 10 months or whatever. That's what I would do to help that VSR and rater push my claim to the next stage. And I'm only going to submit evidence as it pertains to exactly the condition or conditions that I am claiming. DBQ, Nexus statement, or DBQ for increase, or just a DBQ for presumptives or whatever. And I'm going to go do that development, especially if I'm going to be claiming PTSD due to a combat stressor, non-combat stressor. So I'm going to verify those stressors for them. I'm going to put it right in front of them so they don't have to do it. That's what I'm doing. But I'll turn it over to you. You now.
Well, I think there are a few things, Miss. One, first and foremost, before I'm going even to that point, I'm making sure I purchase Mr. Kimball's book so I can make sure I go through 173 pages from cover to cover to make sure I'm informed about everything. That's number one, right? But I do want to talk about that continuity of treatment portion. That is very important, veterans. And why I say this is because if no one wants to hammer it home, I want to really push that because, as Mr. Kimball just noted, this person that you're going to go see has no familiarity with the conditions that you deal with your background, your family history, or any invoked diagnosis that you have been going through over the years. They do not know your chronic pains. They do not know your symptomatology. They do not know your genealogy, where you can be able to identify some of the ailments that are going to arrive possibly in the future or not. So let's make sure that if we are getting treatment or going to a CMP exam, having a primary care physician to be able to assist you through that process is very, very important to be able to go ahead and establish that continuity of care. If they are able to go ahead and complete your DBQ and also provide you with Nexus, I cannot hammer home that your timeline will be shrinked immediately. Make sure that you follow the steps and guidelines that Mr. Kimball just outlined, and I swear it should be good to go. However, there's going to be cases where it's not. That's when you get the professional help that you deserve and need.
And I think also throw another monkey wrench into this whole equation. I strongly feel it's going to depend on who desk it lands on, because obviously there are some VA raiders out there that do not like to use private DBQs and nexus statements. I was one, as long as it was completed the correct way, that's a double win for me and the veteran. The veteran gets service connected in a timely fashion, and I get my production points. But I had some raiders on my team. We would be in team meetings, Mr. Davis, and they'd be like, I don't like DBQs. They don't have nothing to do with the price of tea in China. So what? Follow the regulation. If you can use it, use it. I didn't have this mentality. They would be like, oh, it's our tax money. I didn't have that mentality. I wasn't thinking like, oh, it's going to come out of my personal checking account. No, I'm going to follow the regulations and my training. I went through several trainings on DBQs and nexus statements. I used them to adjudicate claims. QRT pulled it and said, yes, you were right by not requesting a CMP exam and rating the case. So if it happens, a lot of people, they be like, oh, Dwayne, you know what you're talking about. Oh, I do, because somebody, I'm thinking of two right now. I know their names and their faces. I'm not going to say their names. They still there working. And I remember them specifically saying in meetings, I do not like when veterans submit DBQs from their private examiner. And I'm like, whoa. And then I started seeing some of their rating decisions. Because guess what? When they go on vacation, somebody else have to rate those claims, right? So if they rated, if they, back when it was paper, your coach could assign you some of those cases. And that's what happened. And I looked, and I went back to the previous rating decision. Man, nailing the vet to the wall. And of course, and when it came across my desk, you know what I'm looking for? I'm looking for a CUE. A couple of them, I called a CUE on them and helped the quality team help me put together the rating decision to overturn what they did to the veteran. And one of those cases, real quick, was they used a VA CMP exam over a private DBQ. And the VA CMP examiner had a weak rationale. So I called a CUE on it. Probative value should have been given to the private DBQ. So veterans don't
Phenomenal.
think it could land on somebody's desk. It's not that I don't want to say it's a lot of them out there, but it does happen. I don't know if you ever saw something like that, Mr. Davis.
Oh, plenty of times. Plenty. I mean, listen. Every raider is not equal. Okay. Professionalism, beyond professionalism, expertise levels, understanding training. I can assure you right now that there are many raiders across their desk right now do not know the lick of ounce of what they're doing right now. They feel lost, unsupported, not guided, and the lack of training. My training program was much different from today's training program. It was a very stringent one. It was college all over again. Okay. But you have to really consider some people across that desk, unfortunately, do not have the similar mindsets of a veteran helping a veteran at times. And that could be, again, just life trajectory things. But you want to make sure you make it easy. So for the ones that live by the motto of grant if you can and deny if you must, give them that opportunity to do it a little bit easier. And I think the steps that you laid out is perfect.
You're absolutely right. All right. Well, another good video, another good topic, I believe. Veterans, make sure you go over to Prepare to Compete podcast on YouTube. Subscribe to the YouTube channel, and we will be bringing you more topics every month as it pertains to the VA claims process. So make sure you go ahead and like, subscribe, and hit that notification button. And don't forget to share this video with your fellow veterans. Thank you.
Thank you.